Welcome to the Broadbrook Rotary Club Service Above Self, a television show intended to talk about good work being done in the name of community service. My name is Ann Osborne, and I'm proud to have with me today Patty O'Brien. She is the North Central Regional Director for the Alzheimer's Association of Connecticut. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
What is Alzheimer's, and how does it affect the brain?
Well, Alzheimer's is a disease of the brain that breaks down a function, and it develops plaques and tangles in the brain. Now, the million-dollar question is how and why. If I knew that, we'd be in a whole different place. So there is a lot of research going on in that area. But really, what Alzheimer's is a decline in function. It is sometimes memory, and usually that's the number one thing that we see. But also, it can affect language, it can affect personality, it can affect visual spatial relationships. It's not just memory loss. And a lot of people think, oh, Alzheimer's, it's memory loss. It's so much more than that.
How does it differ from dementia?
That's usually a question we get a lot from the community. Dementia is a very general term. And really, dementia is anyone that has a cognitive decline. So any of us could have a dementia. But if you look at it this way, if you take the word furniture, underneath furniture you have table, you have chair. They all have similar features. They all have legs. Sometimes you sit on them. They all have a function. Dementia and furniture are these general terms, and underneath, dementia is Alzheimer's, Lewy bodies, Pick's disease, frontal temporal lobe. There's many, many different types of dementias.
Oh, okay.
The reason we hear Alzheimer's so much, if I had 100 people in this room with a dementia, about 60 to 70 of them would have Alzheimer's type. So it's the number one type that is diagnosed at this time.
Okay. How many people do you think are affected by the disease, both locally and nationally?
Well, statistics are telling us right now that every 70 seconds, someone develops Alzheimer's.
Wow.
So if I sit here, Ann, and talk to you for half an hour, 24 people have developed this disease. Here in Connecticut, we look at about 70,000 folks who are diagnosed. And really the key word there is diagnosed, because there's so many people walking around that don't even know. In the United States of America, we say it's about 5 million to 5.2 million people. And worldwide, it's about 35 million.
That's a lot of people.
The scary thing is, is by the year 2050, those numbers are looking at tripling. So we're going, from 5 million to 15 to 16 million people by the year 2050.
Do they see a connection with the baby boomer generation getting older? And
you hit it right on the head.
Yeah.
Baby boomers have changed everything. They've changed where people work, where people live, how they function, everything. And they're going to change healthcare.
Wow.
And they're going to change how we address this disease called Alzheimer's.
If I have a parent, how do I know, what are the warning signs? How do I know that a relative of mine is going towards the Alzheimer's area?
Well, the Alzheimer's Association, on a national level, because I'm from the Connecticut chapter, we have the 10 warning signs. But one of the warning signs used to be just memory loss. And I ask people all the time, do you have memory loss? And people are like, yeah. Because I forget where I put my keys, or I forget where I park my car.
Well, I have Post-it notes in my car, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's not just memory loss. It's memory loss that affects daily life. But what does that really mean? And I'm going to pick on my mom right now. My mother is wonderful at every month sitting down with her checkbook. She gets her direct deposit, sits down with her checkbook and her checks and her bills, writes them all out, balances that checkbook to the penny. So at any point in her life, if I get a call from a bank saying, you know what, your mom's bouncing checks, that's a problem. Or you know what, she's paid her bill 3 times this month. And it's like, what? That's a problem, because that's a change.
Right, right.
So really, memory loss is the first part of the disease that people notice. The other thing that people start to notice is the inability to name things. Language is affected very early on in the disease process. And the first part of language that's affected are nouns, naming, person, place, or thing. So if I sat here with a hamburger in front of me, I said, I need that red stuff. What would I need? Ketchup. But that's easy. But if I'm sitting here and I have started this journey of Alzheimer's, and I'm saying to you, I need that stuff. And you may say to me, I don't know what stuff you need. No, that stuff you know. And that's where some of that frustration that we see.
Right.
And some of that anger that sometimes we see, a lot of it comes out of real frustration because there's a lot of I don't knows in dementia care. There's a lot of maybes. There's a lot of let's try this and see if it works.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of frustration with this disease, both for the person with the disease and the family caregiver.
What kind of prognosis do these folks have?
Alzheimer's is a terminal illness. Now, most people will say to me, well, Patty, that's not what they die from. The acute reason that someone dies is usually a pneumonia or congestive heart failure. But why are they at that point? It's because the brain no longer is telling the body to get up, get moving, or the brain no longer tells someone how to swallow. So they have pneumonia because when they swallow, it goes down the wrong tube. We all kind of laugh saying, oh, that went down the wrong tube. Well, it really can. And then it gets into the lungs, and that's a whole new issue. In fact, I'm so glad that you asked that question, because one of the things we're talking to families about, when someone passes away, you have to put down, the doctors have to put down the acute reason, and usually it is pneumonia. Also, ask the doctor to add Alzheimer's or dementia, because at the end of a year, the U.S. government looks at death certificates, and they say, oh, you know what, this many people died of let's say, cancer. We're going to give them this much money in research. This many people died from AIDS. We're going to give them this much money in research. Right now, we only have a very short pile for dementia. So we're not getting the research dollars that some of the other diseases are
So they're
getting.
just looking at the pneumonia part and not offsetting it
Exactly.
with the, okay, that makes sense.
Exactly.
That makes sense, yeah. Can it be slowed down with diet or medication?
What research is telling us is if someone has Alzheimer's, it's going to progress. We can't stop it. But what also research is telling us, if people stay social, if they eat right, and if they keep like the numbers game, we call it, cholesterol, blood pressure, diabetes, your weight, if you can keep those in a normal range, it may slow down the disease a little bit, but this disease will progress. But you want to keep people functioning for as long as possible. So anything that you can do can help.
Well, I noticed in the years they've come a long way in having like nursing home facilities now they have specialized wings for Alzheimer's where they didn't have that before. Do you find that science is starting to catch up little by little with it?
Yeah, we have come a long way in care. I've worked in long-term care for about 20 years before coming to the association. And I'll tell you, the first 10 years of my work life, we didn't do such a great job because we didn't know any better.
Yeah.
In the last 10 years, we have made great strides. You talked about secured units. And I have families say to me, I don't want my mother on a secured unit because it seems like it's just too much.
A prison almost.
Yeah. And the way that I look at a secured unit, because I've worked with so many people with dementia, they can live in that secured unit within their dementia.
Yeah.
No one's challenging them. You know, a regular conversation that you and I may have may be going too fast for someone with dementia. They can't follow it as quickly as, you know, someone who doesn't have dementia.
Right, right. Interesting. So how far are we away from finding exactly what causes it? Because they really don't know that right now either.
Absolutely not.
Or a cure. I mean, how much, you know, how, with the pattern of where we've come, where do you see it going?
There's great research going on right now in this country and around the world, really. And what we are looking, there are researchers out there that are looking at slowing it down or stopping it once it starts. And then there's other researchers that are looking to find a cure. If we even slow this disease down, it's going to save billions of dollars. Billions. If we can stop it as soon as it starts, that's going to help too. But here's the issue. There's two hallmarks to Alzheimer's that we know of. They're called plaques and tangles. And they're in the brain. Why they're there, we don't know. And when they start, they don't know. Some of our researchers feel that by the time we see enough decline in function that we're like, something's wrong, they may have had plaques and tangles growing 5 to 10 years.
Wow.
So some of the really interesting research that I've seen out there is adult children that are well of people who have had Alzheimer's are getting into studies, clinical trials. And they are, allowing blood work to be done, and they're allowing brain scans to be done just to see if we can see some changes as early as possible.
Very interesting. We're going to take a brief break. When we come back, let's talk about support and how what you can do to help others when they're finding that they might have family with Alzheimer's.
Great, I love it.
We will be right back after a short break.
Could you dedicate yourself to a worthy cause? Could you go the distance to keep a child healthy? Could you travel to the other side of the world to help eliminate polio? Could you? A Rotary member could. We're dedicated to connecting children with vaccinations and ending polio worldwide. All it takes is one person to make a difference, like me, like you. Could you help change the world? Will you? Rotary. Humanity in motion.
Mom!
What?
You can't find Ichabod.
What?
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you.
Welcome back to the Broadbrook Rotary Club Service Above Self with our guest today, Patty O'Brien from the Alzheimer's Association of Connecticut. Patty, what is the average age? Everybody, imagines you have to be 80 before you get Alzheimer's. What is the age groups?
Well, statistics are telling us that 1 in 8 people at the age of 65 have some form of dementia, and 1 in 2 at 85 have some form of dementia. But there's this other group that we call younger onset, and these are folks under the age of 65 that have some form of dementia, whether it be Alzheimer's or frontal temporal lobe or Lewy bodies. In the United States, there's about 200,000 to 500,000 folks that are in this age group, and most of them are in their 40s and 50s.
Wow.
The issue here is that, this disease is awful at any age, but to have it at 45 or 50 when you're in the prime of making the most money that you can make, you may be the one holding the health insurance, you may have children in high school going on to college, or maybe it's a second marriage and you have little children. That's happening more and more. It's different needs. There are different obstacles that these families are faced with. One being insurance is a huge concern. I'm very proud of the Alzheimer's Association. Last year in 2009, we went to the Social Security disability, and we got dementia put on the compassionate list.
Very good.
Which means you don't have to wait those 2 years to get onto Social Security disability. Good. That's made a huge difference for some of our families that are faced with, a 2-income family down to 1. And the big one was the health insurance. It was really an issue that we were facing with our folks.
Great. Very good. What kind of support is out there for people? I know that a lot of families will go through some difficulty not realizing, that there are a lot of people out there that can also use the help. I know something we had talked about earlier, driving is a huge issue. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. One of the things I want folks to hear tonight, or whenever you're watching this show, is our helpline. We have a helpline 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I'm going to pull out the number because I want to make sure I get it right. It's 1-800-356-5502. And again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you have those concerns about driving, or there's changes in mom or dad, or my husband or my wife, and I'm not really sure what it means, give us a call. So many people will say to me, Patty, that helpline number, is that just for families that are dealing with the disease? Yes, but it's also for anyone who has a question about Alzheimer's. Doesn't matter what that question is. It's important that if you have a question that you get some answers. Driving and dementia is a huge issue across the country. One of the things that we see happening with folks, and one of the warning signs that's out there, is called visual spatial relationships. Not really sure where things begin or end. Not really sure where the person with dementia is in space. So they may back up into something and just drive away and not even know they hit something.
Wow.
So when families really start to have that concern, one of the things we say, take a walk around the car every couple of days. See if there's some dings. But when you ask your loved one if they've dinged something, they're going to tell you no, because they won't remember that they did that.
So every once in a while, when you see a story of a missing elderly person on TV, more than likely that's the reason.
Well, one of the signs that people see is their loved ones get lost in familiar places. And that's a change, and that's one of those changes we talked about earlier in the segment. If you are a person that gets lost, no matter what, and you're now 80 and you're getting lost, that's okay. That's who you are.
Yeah.
But if you are 80 years old, like if I was in Knowing, Connecticut, because that's where I grew up, and I couldn't tell you where Carson's candy store was, or the Knowing Baptist Church, or Universal's grocery store, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Because that's where I grew up, and that's in my memory. It's part of my long-term memory. One of the things with Alzheimer's, the newest information is the first lost. So when the loved one's saying, what time is dinner? And you say 5 o'clock, and they walk away, they don't remember that. It doesn't stick to a memory, and they see you again. They say, what time is dinner? And you're like, 5 o'clock, I just told you that. No, you didn't, because I don't remember. There's 3 parts to a memory. You have to be able to receive it, store it, and then retrieve it. With Alzheimer's, they receive it because they'll repeat back to you some of the information, but it does not get stored. That mechanism of the brain is broken. And very simple. When I talk to kids, and I have the opportunity to talk to young kids all the time, we say Alzheimer's on a very basic level is a disconnection. The synapses in the brain cells have to talk to each other. And when plaque gets in the way, in between there, there's that disconnection. We also talk about where are people in their memory. One of my memories I hope I never forget. I was walking down the hallway one day with one of my residents, and I used to work in upstate New York, and she was a huge Yankee fan. And this was in the late 1990s. I said to her, Cheryl, we're going to watch the Yankees. She goes, do you think Joe DiMaggio's in the lineup today? So where was her memory?
Yeah.
It was 50 years before that.
Right.
And that's one of the struggles that families have, because we all live in today, where someone with dementia may be living 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Where did they come from? What's their history? What's familiar to them?
Yeah, it's kind of funny how like 20 years of their life is just gone. Yeah.
Because the brain actually is getting peeled away. Right now our brain weighs about 3 pounds. This disease, when it goes in and attacks, and that's what it's doing, the brain can go down to 1.5 pounds. So you're losing half your brain mass. And really, our brain's our master computer. It tells our body what to do. It tells us, our thinking, our personality, everything about us is up here.
Yeah.
And when that's being attacked by plaques and tangles, things change.
Now, do you have a website?
We do. It's alz.org/CT. And again, that's up at all times. We maintain on there lists of elder law attorneys, of physicians, of assisted livings, of nursing homes that specialize in dementia care. Because it is a different type of care.
If I have a relative that is in the process of starting with this disease, and how can I help them? What can I do as the person on the other side to help them?
One of the things that we always say to families, get educated. There are some wonderful books out there. The 36-Hour Day is a wonderful book. I don't recommend reading it cover to cover. It's pretty overwhelming. but start reading it and then put it down. And then when something happens, pick it back up and read about that. But there's other books too. Call that helpline. We have what we call our caregiver course. It's a 4-week course that we put together. The first week we have a physician, and he talks just about medically about what's going on in the brain.
Right.
And then the second week, which I think is one of the most important weeks, we talk about communication and behaviors that you may see as this disease goes along its journey. The third week, someone comes in and talks about family dynamics, how they change. And then the fourth week, we have an elder law attorney, because unfortunately, this is an expensive disease.
Yeah.
And legally, things need to be put in order.
And it obviously does affect everybody in the family, not just the person who's inflicted.
It does. It really does, because a lot of times families are bringing in a loved one, and there's children or grandchildren in the house, and they're not understanding it all. Also, if you're a long-distance caregiver, that makes it very difficult because you're not really sure. In the beginning of this disease, people with dementia can cover up their shortcomings. Just for an example, I had one of my clients on the phone with her daughter, and her daughter said, "What are you doing today, Mom?" She's like, "Oh, I'm planting. I'm getting the flower beds ready." And it was in April. Again, I was in upstate New York. And she's telling her how she's planting, and it's wonderful. And I get on the phone, and the daughter's like, "Patty, thank you so much. My mother's enjoying planting." And I said, "I've got 3 feet of snow on the ground."
Yeah.
But she asked her a question, and the woman hit a memory that she could talk about.
Nice, nice. What can people do?
There's a
to help?
number of things that people can do. One of the new initiatives this year by the Alzheimer's Association is called Trial Match. And what that is to connect people with clinical trials in their area. And that is a website. It's alz.org/trialmatch. And that's for people with Alzheimer's. It's for adult children of people with Alzheimer's. And it's for healthy people too, if they want to get in some different clinical trials that are out there. One of the things that families kept saying to us is, we can't find them. It's not the easiest thing to navigate that web.
Right.
So what the Alzheimer's Association did was develop this website. You can put in all your information. You'll get a call back from a trial match specialist, and she'll say, these are the clinical trials in your area that you may be appropriate for.
And this can be found on your website?
It can, absolutely. Okay. In fact, it's right on the front of the website.
Oh, good.
Our front page, because it is so important right now. The only way we're going to learn more about this disease is through good clinical research.
Excellent, excellent. If you can just let us know what that number is again,
Sure.
And your website, and
our number is 1-800-356-5502. Our website is alz.org/CT. And just some other ways that people can get involved. Call your congressmen and your senators. Let them know this is a disease we have to talk about.
absolutely.
This is a disease that we need to put in the forefront. Also, come and join us at one of our events. This is a hard disease, and it's tough. But I will tell you, when we have our memory walks in October, which now are going to be called Walk to End Alzheimer's, because that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
I stand on a stage and look out, and there's about 1,000 people there.
Nice.
I call it my big support group. It gives me my energy to go back and do what I do.
Good.
But it's amazing, when that many people come together and say, you know what, we don't like this disease and we want it gone.
Well, I know groups like ours, we appreciate you, the work that you do, and I would really like to thank you for joining us today. Until next time, this is Ann Osborne with Service Above Self, reminding you to find a worthy cause and lend a helping hand.
Making the world a better place is an intricate puzzle. And piece by piece, the women and men of Rotary have worked hard to fight hunger, promote literacy, and move the world toward peace. But there is still much to be done, still some missing pieces. And one of those missing pieces is you. Learn how you can help Rotary put together a better world at Rotary.org. Rotary, humanity in motion.